Good morning, and welcome to the latest edition of Shooting Straight with me, Voice of the Forge. It has been a while since the last Shooting Straight, and that is because I'm trying to keep the topics that we are discussing on point. And what this means is that rather than talking in circles about endless irrelevancies just to keep videos popping up on the screen every so often, I try to make it so that it's something which I actually feel strongly about. And as a result, quite a lot of news media and everything else that's going on, I basically just ignore because it's, quite frankly, bollocks. Tedious bollocks. But then, every now and then, there is something which really gets my goat. And today is no exception. Today, one of the major newspapers is carrying a headline about how it is the fault of men, yet again. This is men who are to blame for women having children later in life. And why is it men's fault? Well, allegedly it's men's fault because men enjoy video games and hanging out with other men, drinking beer and being childish. Childish. Right, so basically, the rise of people staying at home longer, some of them into their 30s, not moving out and finding a place of their own, is just men. Is it? No, it's not. It's a shift in the UK for everybody. It's not something which is just men. The fact that the educational system in the UK has shifted so that we no longer leave school at 15, as my dad did in the 60s and 70s. We postponed education finishing until 18 in the last 10 years. The fact that most people are going to university, 50% of the population of young people are expected to go to university when they leave education at 18, which would push their reproductive age up to 21 for when they're likely to have kids if they stay in school and education. None of this has any impact at all, does it? And surprisingly, according to a journal which was reported on in January 2017, education doesn't play that big a role. The journal itself said that for every level of education attained, it kind of only pushed back the age of first child for a mother about 6 months. So not that huge. But it did have some interesting side notes. And that's part of the reason why I've made this video, is because I prefer facts over hyperbole and politics, and especially politics which demonise men for women's choices. And this journal, Demography, as I said, published in January this year, stated that part of the reason why education hasn't had that big an impact is because in the 1960s, or up until the 1960s, the baby boomers, they were fairly young. The average age of a first child didn't increase that much. But then it noted that there was a shift, and the shifts primarily come down to your family, your socio-economic background, and the way in which you've been raised. And the biggest jump was because of the introduction of the pill. Just let that sink in for a moment. you are more likely to delay having children in life to an older age, and the ages they looked at specifically were 30 to 35 and then 40 to 44. So they were the specific age ranges they were looking at, where the climbs were being made in the demographic brackets they were looking at, and they are saying that it is starting to overtake younger women for the first time. So there is actual movement here which is being seen, right? The most likely impact, or the two most likely impacts on a woman to have children later in life, are due to the way in which she's been raised by her family and the pill, being gamers, drinking beer, hanging out with their friends, behaviours which are being labelled childish. So once again, women's choices are being blamed on men, because it's easier to have a scapegoat, a whipping boy, someone to blame, rather than yourself. Now, I know that anecdote data is the worst kind of data, but I've met women in their 20s who haven't got kids, and they don't want kids. They're doing exactly the same thing that the men are doing. They're drinking beer, they're playing games, they're hanging out with their friends, and whilst there is a culture that is a hookup culture, primarily, there are one or two people that settle down and have long-term relationships. There's a decision being made in those relationships not to have kids straight away. So again, nothing to do with this headline, which is purely provocative, and once again completely buying into an agenda that it's men's fault that things are happening in society. What's happening is that society is, generally speaking, reaping what it sowed. When it introduced the reproductive pill so that women for the first time could take advantage of taking control of their reproductive cycle, so that they were no longer at the behest of nature, so that they could enjoy sex without always having to worry about falling pregnant. Condoms are 97% effective, they're not 100% effective. Other forms of contraception don't necessarily work as well, or there might be other issues with them. And something as simple as a pill a day to control your reproductive cycle, it freed them to do so much more. And rather than lauding these achievements in the workplace and at home, and the benefits that society has accrued over the last 70 years, we see instead that there is now someone who feels the necessity to write an article saying, oh no, women are having babies later, it's all men's fault because they're growing up later in life. Well, I've got news for you. The infantilization of adults is across the board. When I was 22, I was doing a man's job. Oh, I'm only a young lass. Oh, I'm only a young lad. I can't do that. I'm far too young. Society has infantilized adults across the board. It has taken decisions away. It has taken, in some ways, penalties for bad behaviour away. And I say bad behaviour, not illegal behaviour. Although there is some element of the fact that low-level crime has been on the increase because the police don't operate a zero broken windows policy. And that's something else that I can elaborate on for anyone who's interested. But by far, The fact that women are having children later in life is down to one part of the demographic makeup of this country, and that is women. End of. Stop blaming men. We're sick of it. Anyway, that's my rant for today. I hope you like and enjoy. If you would like to hear more, then please find me on here, wherever you see this video, whether it be YouTube, VidMe, Minds, anywhere where I post this or link to it. Then if you like what I'm saying, if you think you agree, or if you disagree, if you'd like to have a conversation, then please by all means like, subscribe or get in touch. There are numerous web portals with Voice of the Forge attached. They are all me. And if you can't find any of them, then find our beta store webpage, which is mythandmachine.co.uk, and it has all our link details there. Thank you once again for listening. I am, as always, Voice of the Forge, and good morning.